Okay, I promise I'll stop changing my video titles. This should be the finalized title. Serious Sam Raimi, the emo encounter, is the second part to Serious Sam the first encounter. Wait. The second encounter continues whatever sort of plot the first encounter had by sending Sam to another point in time, which really just means it sends you to somewhere that isn't made out of fucking sand.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, and rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
To be honest, there's not too much to talk about the second encounter, because more than anything, it's more of the same. If you haven't seen my previous review for the first encounter, you should probably go do that. The second encounter really just adds more weapons and enemy types, and also actually bothers to change up the environments, unlike the first encounter. All weapons from the previous game are still here, but the new additions include a chainsaw, sniper rifle, flamethrower, and the Serious Bomb. The chainsaw is just a much larger version of the knife that you won't find yourself using for more than the first 10 minutes of the game. The sniper rifle is probably one of my most used weapons in the game, mainly because it attempts to fix a problem that I had with the first encounter by, well, being a sniper. You can actually take out enemies from far away and deal a large amount of damage. Pretty much use it as an anti-scorpion weapon because it only takes around 1 or 2 shots to get rid of them. The flamethrower is a fantastic weapon for keeping control of large crowds, notably stunning clears for a few seconds and practically being a nuclear weapon for the weaker enemies. Speaking of nuclear weapons, the Serious Bomb is pretty much the equivalent of a cheat item, except it's not a cheat, and is actually in the game. You can only hold 3 of them at a time, and they're also extremely rare, meaning you need to find a good time to use them. But by using them, you can clear out entire areas instantly with no hassle. The newer enemies really just include these weird alien grunts that are basically a reskinned version of the grunts from the first encounter, except they can actually be a threat in large hordes. Then you have these weird rocket alien guys, and oh sweet Jesus, why? Man, I just can't wait to rant again. Despite the numerous additions that this game does add, I would also say that the second encounter screws up in a lot more places than the first encounter, and it's mainly because this game tries to take the approach of a sequel being bigger and better than the first. In the case of this game, kinda fell flat on its face by taking that approach. First, this game really should have been called the Gimmick Encounter because holy shit, this game just loves to change the rules and mess if you want a moment's notice. You'll be playing the game normally for a while, and then all of a sudden you'll walk into a room that has a bouncy floor. Another room will completely screw with the gravity. Another will have rotating walls that move you and the enemies, and yeah, you get the idea. These are really unnecessary and always felt more like just a cheap way to kill the player and have them restart from the previous save. This isn't even including for some reason a new obsession with platforming sections, which are just not fun because of this game's physics and gravity. It's really easy for you to miss where you intended to land and you'll end up having to load back your previous save. Second problem is that Croteam must have taken going bigger and better to heart because it's not just the new additions and stuff that got bigger, but also the environments. I don't know why this had to be changed, because while the first encounter gave you a lot of room to run around shooting things, it was never obnoxiously huge to the point of running around a large area for actual full minutes going from point A to point B. Seriously, these places are gigantic and they have no reason to be this huge. Last major issue is the balancing. Man, it's almost like Croteam didn't learn a single damn thing, because holy mother of god, it's actually gotten significantly worse. I wouldn't be surprised if in Croteam's offices during some random day they were just like, hey man, so players actually managed to beat the first encounter, we need to go all out and make sure they can't win this time. Don't worry, it'll make millions, we'll still going to be rich. The abuse of scorpions is out the fucking roof, now with them being around every single corner, and in the case of the green reptile guys I complained about in the first encounter, we now have a new type of them, and they can fire even faster fireballs that deal devastating damage! Yay! This isn't even including enemies can actually spawn behind you now, too. I could go on for a long time about how much worse the balancing has gotten in this game. I mean, I could make an entire hour-long rant on how horrifically bad the entire final level is, and how there's a 20-minute long arena that is mind-numbingly repetitive and boring, and how the final boss somehow managed to be even worse than the first encounters, and how there is still a cliffhanger ending that doesn't reward you in the slightest. And this is why I would say that despite the improvements the overall game does make, this one is a bit harder to make a recommendation for. I would say that the entire first half of the game is a good fun time until it still drops the ball the second half, just like the first encounter did, and it becomes anything but fair. I'd say that if you like old school games and have played the first encounter, to go pick this one up on sale for a cheap price. Maybe now I can take a break from Serious Sam games. Oh god damn.